Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fluent Path English. I'm James.
And I'm Emily. Thanks for joining us today. James, have you ever played silly question games with friends?
Oh, yeah. Especially in high school, we used to play What Would You Do If games all the time. It's a fun way to learn more about someone.
Exactly. And today's dialogue is just like that. Two girls are chatting and asking each other some hypothetical questions. And their answers are both funny and honest.
Right. And in this episode, you'll hear some great conditional expressions. Very useful for practicing if sentences.
Okay, let's listen to their conversation for the first time.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
That was a fun conversation. I love how spontaneous it felt.
Me too. These kinds of what-if questions are not only fun, but they also help us practice English conditionals in a very natural way.
Right. And the girl's answers were so expressive. She would faint and have me committed? That's dramatic and funny.
Exactly. And this kind of language is perfect for storytelling or casual chats with friends. All right, now let's break down some of the useful expressions in that dialogue.
Let's start with the phrase, ask someone out.
Ask someone out.
Ask someone out.
This phrase means to invite someone on a date, usually in a romantic context. It's very common when talking about relationships or dating.
In the dialogue, she says, if Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say? That means, if Eric invited you to go on a date, what would your answer be?
She asked that because Eric is the most popular kid in school. It's kind of a dream scenario.
Exactly. Here's an example. He finally asked me out after class yesterday. That means he invited me on a date.
Next is the word lottery.
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 A lottery is a game of chance where people buy tickets in hopes of winning a big prize, usually money. It's often used when talking about luck or dreaming big.
In the dialogue, the girl asks, "What would you do if you won the lottery?" This means, if you suddenly became rich, what would you do with the money?
She asked that because it's a classic question that gets people thinking about their dreams. But can you say, lose the lottery? Not really. Usually we just say, I didn't win, or I didn't get lucky.
Good point. We don't normally say, lose the lottery, even if we didn't win.
All right, now let's talk about the phrase, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
This phrase means definitely or without a doubt. It's very common in casual English.
In the dialogue, she says, if you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure. That means, absolutely, I'll go with you if you get me a ticket.
She said that to show how excited she was about the idea of traveling the world.
Here's another example. Are you coming to the party? Yeah, for sure. It means, definitely, I'll be there.
Exactly. All right, now let's listen to the dialogue again and see how these phrases are used in context.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
Listening to it again, it's clear that these what-if questions really help to show personality.
Yeah, and we also get to hear casual phrases like duh or freak out, which make the conversation sound very real.
Definitely. All right, now let's dive into a few more useful phrases.
Let's start with the phrase freak out.
Freak out.
Freak out.
This phrase means to become very upset, scared, or angry, basically to lose control of your emotions.
In the dialogue, she says, "My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that." That means her dad would react very strongly, probably with shock or anger, if she brought up such an idea.
She said that because going on a world trip might sound too wild or expensive to her dad. It's a fun exaggeration.
Here's an example. She freaked out when she saw the spider in her room. That means she got really scared and panicked.
Exactly. Next up is the word faint.
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 To faint means to suddenly lose consciousness, often because of shock, fear, or not enough blood flow to the brain.
In the dialogue, the girl says her mom would faint if she told her she was getting married. This is a humorous way to say her mom would be so shocked she might pass out.
Similar words include pass out or black out, but faint is the most common.
Here's an example. He fainted after standing in the hot sun for too long. That means he collapsed or lost consciousness.
All right, now let's look at the word commit.
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 In this context, commit means to send someone to a hospital, usually a psychiatric one, for treatment.
In the dialogue, she says, "She would faint and have me committed." That means her mom would think she's crazy and send her to a mental hospital. Of course, it's just a joke to show how shocked her mom would be.
Here's an example. After his strange behavior, they considered having him committed. That means sending him for psychological help.
All right, that's it for today's phrase breakdown. But before we wrap up, let's talk a little about the grammar.
Right. In today's dialogue, we heard a lot of sentences using would.
Yes, would is used to talk about imaginary or hypothetical situations, things that are not real, but we're imagining them.
Exactly. That's why we say, if I won the lottery, I would buy a ticket, instead of will.
If we used will, like if I win the lottery, I will buy a ticket, it means we think it's likely or possible. But would shows it's just a fun idea or an unlikely situation.
Here's an example. If I were a bird, I would fly around the world. That's clearly imaginary.
Another one. If I met a celebrity, I would ask for a photo. It hasn't happened, but we're imagining what we would do.
Great! Understanding would is really useful when talking about dreams, wishes, or fake scenarios.
Exactly. All right, now let's listen to the dialogue one last time and see how much you can catch.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
All right, we're back. Hopefully, our listeners picked up some fun ways to use conditional sentences today.
Yes. This episode was a great way to learn how to talk about imaginary situations, wishes, and possibilities.
These types of questions often come up in games or just fun conversations with friends.
Right. And they're also great for practicing if sentence patterns, like, if I won the lottery. or if I told her.
Also, we heard expressions like freak out and duh, which are very common in casual speech.
That's true. So if you want to sound more natural when speaking English, make sure to try these out.
That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
We'll be back again soon with more real English conversations.
See you next time.
Bye.